This is your weekly roundup on the EAC News Channel. Your look back at the past week in the Kingdom of Wonder. A very good evening to you. I'm Paolo Bonini and we start with Monday. His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni has been on a 5-day mission in France for UNESCO's 41st General Assembly. He was among the heads of state for more than 20 countries. The King has arrived back in Cambodia on Monday morning, bringing the results of the conference back to the kingdom. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has those details.
Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni has arrived home safely. He came back from UNESCO's General Assembly, held between the 10th and the 14th of November. The King represented Cambodia with a well-praised speech in which he thanked France and Indonesia for helping with the Paris Peace Agreement talks 30 years ago, when Cambodia has finally returned to peace after a turbulent period of civil wars. The King has also thanked UNESCO's efforts in protecting and safeguarding Cambodia's cultural heritages, and has stated it was a pleasure to be back at a UNESCO's General Assembly. King Sihamoni has participated in UNESCO's meeting in 1993 and 2003, when he was assigned to be Cambodian ambassador. On this year occasion, the Majesty has used the opportunity to request UNESCO to include 2 more Cambodian heritages as part of the list of intangible cultural heritage and the World Heritage Sites. According to Royal du Cambodge Facebook post, the King has started to prepare a request for the inclusion of Khmer traditional martial art Bokator as an intangible cultural heritage. Bokator has the chance to be the 6th Cambodian intangible cultural heritage on a list that includes the Royal Ballet of Cambodia and the Shadow Theatre. He has also requested to include Cambodia's khmer archaeological temple in the World Heritage Sites category. As for the moment, Cambodia's most famous temple Angkor, as well as Preah Vihear Temple and Samboa Pre Cook archaeological sites are part of the World Heritage Sites. The Majesty has also set a call with Director General of UNESCO's Audrey Azoulay on Saturday to discuss the inclusion of both proposals. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has virtually met with the Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang on Monday afternoon. The 2 prime ministers have agreed to boost trade between the 2 countries, up to $10 billion per year. They also agreed to enter into a free trade agreement by January of next year. EAC News reporter Ria Soko has the story.
Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang has vowed to Prime Minister Hun Sen on Monday that the People's Republic of China will continue to support the royal government of Cambodia in boosting trade as well as its fight against COVID-19. Prime Minister Hun Sen has expressed gratitude to his Chinese counterpart for not leaving Cambodia's side. They discussed boosting bilateral cooperation relations between the 2 countries as well as regional and international cooperations. In the bilateral framework, they discussed economic and trade issues, agricultural issues, and people-to-people relations. They agreed to boost trade between the 2 countries to $10 billion per year and also agreed to enter into force a free trade agreement between Cambodia and China by January. In the field of agriculture, the Chinese Prime Minister agreed to push for joint work between the 2 sides to negotiate a quota on rice imports to China and Cambodian agricultural products directly to China through the establishment of a joint mechanism. Within the framework of regional international cooperations, Prime Minister Li Keqiang informed Prime Minister Hun Sen that the Chinese side will attend the upcoming Asia-Europe meeting and provide support to Cambodia on the occasion of Cambodia's chairmanship of ASEAN next year. In addition, the Chinese side will provide 550 scholarships to Cambodia for 2022 to 2023 for 5 years and is also considering to allow Cambodian students to return to study in China soon. Prime Minister's assistant Ieng Supalit has conveyed how grateful the Cambodian Prime Minister to converse with Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang. Supalit says that Prime Minister Hun Sen is very thankful to the Chinese government for its never-ending support and for always providing a warm welcome to His Majesty King and Queen during their royal visit to China. Reyes Soko, EAC News.
Cambodian's female athlete Uksre Mum has secured Cambodia a gold medal, which not only brought pride to the kingdom, but also praise, especially from Prime Minister Hun Sen. The World Petang Championship is ongoing in Spain, with the Women's Championship opening the games. 4 Khmer athletes were sent to the Women's Petang Championships, which was held between the 12th and the 14th of November in Santa Susana, Spain. But it was Uksre Mum who stepped up to the centre of the podium, defeating Thailand 39-27 in the final round. She has beaten her Canadian counterpart 29-2 in the first quarter and the Norwegian player 25-18 in the semi-finals. Uksre Mum was a champion in 2017, winning 2 of the 5 medals Cambodia has achieved in the World Petang Championship. The number of victories has only been achieved by Cambodia. The win caught the attention of Prime Minister Hun Sen, who posted on his Facebook page congratulations to the athlete, stating the whole kingdom is proud of her achievements in the championship. The World Petang Championship held the junior categories at the same time as the women's game. The best Cambodian players will play the male champions between Friday and Sunday this week. No more quarantine for vaccinated international travellers. It was announced by Prime Minister Hun Sen on Sunday, which was most welcomed not only by the residents of the kingdom, but also by other countries, especially from the ASEAN group. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has the story.
Cambodian has made headlines in different parts of the world, especially in the ASEAN member countries. Starting on Monday, the kingdom will no longer impose quarantine for travelers arriving in the country, that if they are fully vaccinated. This was after Prime Minister Hun Sen's announcement on Sunday. As long as their rapid test shows negative, they can go ahead to their final destination.
I know that some of our people want to go abroad but are worried about returning to our country because of the need of quarantine. Our brothers and sisters abroad also want to come back to visit in the country, but they are worried about doing quarantine too. Now, all of you are no longer necessary and anxious. Before leaving the country, you should have a COVID-19 test certificate within 72 hours before arriving in the Kingdom of Cambodia. After arriving, you should take a rapid test which takes only 15 to 20 minutes. After checking that there is no positive, you will be able to travel in any of the framework of the whole country without any obstructions.
The Prime Minister has clarified that this also applies to travelers who are currently under quarantine across the country. As long as their COVID-19 tests are negative, they are free to travel around the country. Prime Minister Hun Sen says this is to accelerate the reopening of the country and facilitate the return of Cambodians from abroad. The PM did specify that a COVID test certificate within 72 hours before arriving in the kingdom is needed. Then a COVID-19 rapid test upon arrival, which takes around 15 to 20 minutes. But for unvaccinated travelers, they have to undergo the mandatory 14 days quarantine. This news is gratefully received especially by the tourist industry, which has been standing by to welcome back much-needed tourist revenue. Cambodia is the first country in the Asian region that has announced quarantine-free for vaccinated travelers. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
The United Nations Secretary-General Khalid Kahari has held Cambodia's Khmer Rouge Tribunal. He expressed his appreciation during his visit to Dul Slai Museum last Friday, together with the chairman of Cambodian's Human Rights Committee, Khao Rami. The Khmer Rouge Tribunal, also known as the Extraordinary Chambers in the Courts of Cambodia, a hybrid tribunal between the United Nations and the Cambodian courts. Apart from appreciation to the achievements made by the ECCC, Kahari has also expressed condolences to all the victims who died in Tuol Sleng prison. Kia Raimi has told the UN Secretary-General that the tribunal is an example of an international tribunal that retains the full sovereignty of the host country and is being adopted by some other countries. In addition to providing justice to the victims of the Khmer Rouge, Raimi says the tribunal also maintained national unity and paid relatively little compared to other international courts. It is being paid about $22 million a year, while other international courts spend about $100 million a year. The Khmer Rouge Tribunal began its work in early February 2006 and has completed 4 cases, including prison chief Ki Ang Guk El, also known as Duch Kyo Sampon, and Non Cheer. Banteay Minche's Department of Health has discovered that it was high levels of methanol that killed 7 migrant workers under quarantine in Kobe Tom Center, Poi Phet City, last Thursday. 25 of the workers from Thailand were drinking inside the quarantine center. 7 of them died. Initial information from the provincial administration said that they were drinking sanitizing alcohol mixed with soda and tea. But the alcohol sample examination shows a dangerous level of methanol in the drink. EAC news reporter Dashani Gokhan has the story.
18 migrant workers out of 25 survived from the alcohol poisoning last week. 7 of them died after consuming drinks mixed with tainted alcohol. Banteay Minche's Department of Health Deputy Director Ruin Soti has told EAC News that they collected an alcohol sample to confirm the cause of death of the workers. At first, they believed that it was the sanitizing alcohol available in the quarantine center that killed them, mixed with tea and soda. But a day after the incident, the health department team have seized 186 bottles of counterfeit alcohol, amounting to 123 liters of methanol at Kon Damre village in Nimit commune of Poi Phet City. Authorities confirmed that the workers sourced their drinks from the village. The results show a very high level of methanol from the drink. This concluded the investigation on what caused the deaths of the 7 workers in the quarantine center. Bringing alcoholic beverages inside the quarantine center is strictly prohibited. Banteay Minche's provincial officials have continuously warned people under quarantine, especially those migrant workers coming from Thailand, to adhere to the royal government policy to avoid similar incidents. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
Now for a look at the news making international headlines this Monday, 15th of November.
Ecuador's President Guillermo Lasso has called a crisis cabinet after another outbreak of brutal prison violence. At least 68 people died and more than 24 injured on Saturday at Litoral Penitentiary. It is one of Ecuador's largest prisons in the coastal city of Guayaquil. The same penitentiary is the same prison where 119 inmates were killed in late September in the country's worst ever incident of prison violence. The government has blamed disputes between drug trafficking gangs for control of prisons for the violence. So far, 34 bodies have been identified since the Saturday bloodshed. The Human Rights Secretariat will deliver the coffins to the families while criminology continues to work on the identification of the other deceased. The government is also offering psychological assistance for the victims' families. Ecuador's prison system has come under harsh spotlight in recent years for overcrowding, poor sanitary conditions, and organized crimes. Lasso in September declared a 60-day state of emergency in the prison system.
Thousands of Thai protesters demonstrated out onto the streets of Thailand's capital Bangkok on Sunday. They demand changes, including the repeal of a draconian law that criminalizes any criticism of the king. Youth-led protests that began last year by calling for the removal of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, a former coup leader, with thousands in attendance. Sunday's rally was one of the biggest protests in recent months, despite being temporarily disrupted by rain. Protesters held placards reading, "No absolute monarchy," and "Reform is not abolition," as they marched through Bangkok. While it was once taboo to call for reforms to the monarchy, young protesters are becoming increasingly bold in their demands. A 20-year-old protester says she can't see their future if they stay under the regime of dictatorship and monarchy. They want to have a voice. They want their government to work for them, not the king. They want humans to be equal. Riot police were seen standing on the streets and in front of the German embassy. Since the protests began last year, at least 157 people have been charged under the law, according to records compiled by the Thai Lawyers for Human Rights group. Sunday's protest came in response to the Constitutional Court's ruling last week that a call for reforms to the monarchy by 3 protest leaders in August last year was unconstitutional and designed to topple the institution. 3 protesters were wounded on Sunday.
Schools in New Delhi will be closed for a week and construction sites for 4 days. This was announced by the India's capital chief minister has announced on Saturday as the city tries to protect people in the worsening air pollution crisis. Chief Minister of the National Capital Territory of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, says that the New Delhi, often ranked as one of the world's most polluted capital, will be physically closed for a week from Monday as severe air pollution blankets in the city. He has confirmed that talks on a potential complete lockdown in the capital were also underway, but any decision would only be taken after consultation with the central government. A thick haze of toxic smog hung over the Indian capital, intensified by a spike in the burning of crop waste in surrounding farmlands. Farmers of India's breadbasket states of Punjab have said that they were compelled to burn the stalks as no proper solution or alternative was being provided to them by the government. Stubbles or stalks burning in Punjab and Haryana states, part of the farm belt that borders the capital, New Delhi, accounts to 30 to 40% of air pollution in October and November, according to air quality monitor agency SAFAR. Air quality in Delhi, often ranked the world's most populated capital, has declined due to crop stalks burning, emission from transport, coal-fired plants outside the city, and other industry, as well as open garbage, burning, and dust.
The National Assembly of the Kingdom of Cambodia has hosted the 11th Asia-Europe Parliamentary Partnership meeting on Tuesday. Leaders and parliamentarians from over 30 countries have gathered at the event, which is being held under the theme of strengthening parliamentary partnership for peace and sustainable development in the era of COVID-19 and beyond. EAC news reporter Ria Soka has the story.
Cambodia is proudly hosting the Asia-Europe meetings for this month of November. On Tuesday, Cambodia hosts the 11th Asia-Europe Parliamentary Partnership meeting. The ASEP 11 is an important part of the 13th Asia-Europe meeting, which Cambodia will also host at the end of November. ASEP 11 focuses on the cooperation between Asia and Europe and strengthening partnerships to promote peace, security, and sustainable social progress. President of the Senate, Sai Chum, says that the Asia-Europe meeting currently represents 65% of the world economy, 55% of global trade, 75% of world tourism, and 60% of the world's population. He says both in the framework of bilateral and multilateral cooperation, the Asia-Europe partnership has made significant contributions to reducing poverty in the least developed countries and developing countries, as well as contributing to the maintenance of peace, security, and stability. The Senate President has stated several callings to the participating leaders and institutions. He has urged all parties to promote peaceful dialogue based on respect for international law and sovereignty independence and non-interference in internal affairs to find a win-win solution, national unity, and global unity. During the opening remarks, President of the National Assembly, Heng Samrin, says that parliaments need to continue promoting the culture of dialogue and values of peace in resolving such issues through key parliamentary diplomacy mechanisms, including preventive diplomacy. He has stressed on ensuring long-term peace by promoting shared prosperity, social justice, governance, human rights, and values of democracy. Prime Minister Hun Sen highlights the pandemic situation. He says the COVID-19 has changed the norms and behaviors of people's lives, which can be considered as a test of the commitment between Asia and Europe to maintain a trustworthy cooperation. The Prime Minister has said that the strong cooperation of the Asia-Europe partnership will enable to live and recover from this global crisis together without abandoning any country. Cambodia's Prime Minister has also emphasized on the global peace and security, describing it as under pressure and increasingly difficult to predict due to increasing geopolitical competition. He has said that the geopolitical lines are already being drawn and pressured small states to choose a political agenda that does not reflect the will and interests of their nation. Prime Minister Hun Sen has encouraged the leaders and partners at the ASEP 11 to continue to uphold the values of peace and to explore the necessary mechanisms to achieve the goal. Reyes Soko, EAC News.
The Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation and the Subcommittee on Social Assistance has organised the third consultation meeting on the draft National Strategy for Social Services in Cambodia 2022 to 2031. It is aimed to gather additional input into the preparation of the SPI, National Strategic Plan, from the Cambodian Social Service Forces. EAC News reporter Deshana Gochan has the story.
At the opening of the third consultation meeting, the Minister of Social Affairs, Vung Sot, announced that the ministry plans to put 2 social workers or deputy social workers in each commune across Cambodia as part of the broader effort to improve the National Social Service Force. Over the course of the 10-year plan, the government of Cambodia intends to employ more than 7,000 social service workers at both the national and regional level, including through partnerships with NGOs. Minister Vung Sot has emphasized the important role social services play in supporting victims and vulnerable groups through the provision of welfare services that reduce poverty, identify and manage risks, provide protection, and connect vulnerable people together with their families. The minister further elaborated that the ministry is dedicated to developing a good social service force that will promote justice, reduce discrimination, change dangerous social behaviors, respond to all forms of exploitation, violence, abuse, and neglect, and make society more harmonious. To articulate the inclusive vision of the Ministry of Social Affairs, the minister says that the social services force will comprise of professionals, sub-professionals, governmental and non-governmental staff who will work together with children, youth, adults, women, the disabled, the elderly, families, and all communities to ensure good development and well-being. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
The Phnom Penh Municipal Court has issued an order to forcibly sell the house of the former CNRP member Sam Rainsy. His house, located in the capital's Minche district, is being put up for sale to compensate plaintiffs. The 4 of them are set to be paid around $2 million. EAC News reporter Ria Soka has the details.
The money earned from the sale will be used as a compensation to the National Assembly President, Heng Samrin, Prime Minister Hun Sen, Minister of Interior Sar King, and the royal government. The Phnom Penh Municipal Court issued a decision to sell the property by force. According to the final order dated on the 1st of November 2017, Sam Rainsy is charged for defamation. The Supreme Court ruled that Sam Rainsy should pay around $61,500 to National Assembly President Heng Samrin and around $984,000 to Prime Minister Hun Sen. For the final criminal judgment of the Phnom Penh Municipal Court, dated 30th December 2020, the decision is to compensate Minister of Interior Sar King of around $492,000, and the final criminal verdict dated 1st of March 2021 states to pay the royal government around $442,800. If all are combined, Sam Rainsy has to pay around $2 million. EAC News has not been able to contact Sam Rainsy's lawyer, Sam Suk Hong. Reyes Soko, EAC News.
Now for a look at the news making international headlines this Tuesday, 16th of November.
A CCTV has captured the moment a taxi exploded shortly after it has pulled outside Liverpool Women's Hospital in the northern English city of Liverpool on Sunday. Police has confirmed that the homemade explosive device that blew up the vehicle was carried on board by a passenger. The driver, named David Perry, has managed to escape from the vehicle seconds before it engulfed in flames, but was injured. The explosion happened whilst he was still inside the car, and how he managed to escape is an utter miracle. While the passenger, who is believed to have brought the device into the taxi, died at the scene. The explosion engulfed the taxi in flames. As a Remembrance Day service to commemorate war dead was being held at nearby Liverpool Cathedral. The explosion has since been declared as a terrorist incident. 4 men have been arrested under the Terrorism Act, while M15 is assisting regional counter-terrorism police.
The Taliban hold military parade on Sunday, using American-made armored vehicles and Russian helicopter in apparent bid to show off its growing military muscle. The Islamic fundamentalist political movement and military organization in Afghanistan refers itself as the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. It has been operating an insurgent force for 2 decades after being pushed from power by a US-led invasion in 2001. But have looked to transform into a regular standing army since taking over the country in August this year. The Defense Ministry spokesman Inayatullah Khawazemi has declared that the military victory parade commemorates the graduation of 250 newly trained soldiers. The exercise involved dozens of US-made M1117 armored security vehicles, drawing attention on a major Kabul road, with Mi-17 helicopters patrolling overhead. Many soldiers carried Americans-made M4 assault rifles. Most of the weapons and equipment the Taliban forces are now using are those supplied by Washington to American-backed government in Kabul, in a bid to construct an Afghan national force capable of fighting the Taliban.
And a footage shows migrants gathered near the Poland-Belarus border on Monday. Polish border guards have reported 5,100 attempted irregular crossings from Belarus so far in November, compared to 120 in all of 2020. Poland's defense ministry on Monday has accused Belarus of sending thousands more migrants to the Polish border crossing. The defense ministry has also added that the relocation of migrants from the makeshift camp to the border crossing in Toshnica is a planned operation by the Belarusian services. Poland's government believes that it is an instrumental use of migrants by Belarus. Migrants, mainly women and children, are forced to approach the fence so that the Belarusian media can prepare their propaganda materials. Interior Minister Mariusz Kamiński also said that Poland intends to start building a permanent wall on the Belarusian border in December. The European Union will step up sanctions against Belarus, which on Monday denounced as absurd Western accusations that it was driving a migrant crisis that has left up to 4,000 people stranded in freezing forests on its border with Poland.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, please, please wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has asked Chinese leaders to consider establishing COVID-19 factory in Cambodia. The Prime Minister was speaking on Wednesday morning during the handover ceremony of 2 million doses of Sinovac vaccine from China. The COVID-19 vaccine was turned over to the Prime Minister by the Chinese ambassador, Wang Wentian. EAC News reporter Ria Soka has more.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has revealed that he had a talk with Chinese Ambassador Wang Wentian about the continued supply of vaccines, reaching the initiative on vaccine production in Cambodia. The Prime Minister says that in doing so, Cambodia will not have a problem in securing vaccines against COVID-19 if it persists 3 to 5 years from now. He says no one knows when the pandemic will end, but for him, he was just thinking of the possibility that it may last longer. And he wants the Kingdom of Cambodia to produce its own vaccine in the country, as well as supply to other countries. The Prime Minister has compared the situation with Thailand. He says that Thailand is already producing AstraZeneca. For Cambodia, he wishes to produce either Sinopharm or Sinovac. Prime Minister Hun Sen hopes that Chinese Ambassador Wang Wentian will send his request to Chinese President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Li Keqiang, as well as other relevant parties as soon as possible to establish a vaccine factory in Cambodia. In the beginning of the handover ceremony of the 2 million doses of Sinovac vaccine, Chinese Ambassador to Cambodia Wang Wentian has affirmed on behalf of the government of the People's Republic of China that the Chinese government will not stop supplying COVID-19 vaccine for Cambodia if the COVID-19 crisis won't end. The ambassador says China and Cambodia are like hands and feet, good friends who know each other well. China has already provided a total of 36.8 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to Cambodia. 8.3 million were donations, including the latest 2 million received by Cambodia, while 28.5 million doses were purchased by the government. Rhea Soko, EAC News.
The 11th Asia-Europe Parliamentary Partnership meeting was held virtually on Tuesday, under the theme Strengthening Parliamentary Partnership for Peace and Sustainable Development in the Era of COVID-19 and Beyond. The meeting was co-chaired by the National Assembly of Cambodia and the Senate of the Kingdom of Cambodia. During the closing remarks on Tuesday evening, National Assembly President Sai Chum has highlighted the importance of multilateralism in addressing global issues such as COVID-19 and climate crisis. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko has the details.
President of the Senate of the Kingdom of Cambodia, Sai Chum, has underscored the importance of ASAP's role in promoting peaceful dialogues with respect to international law and sovereignty between nations, as well as improving global public health, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic era. At the National Assembly, President Heng Samran has reiterated the importance of multilateralism dialogue in addressing global issues. Both presidents has called on all head parliamentary members to enhance dialogues for a post-pandemic economic recovery. Vice President of the European Parliament and former President of ASEP 10, Heidi Hautala, has called for a highly political respect and commitment in order to overcome global issues at present, which might increase in the near future, such as what he called a climate pandemic. Prime Minister Hun Sen and chair of the 13th ASEAN Summit has stressed the importance of the Asia-Europe Parliamentary Partnership, promoting a trust-based cooperation between the nations. The heads of parliament have also urged ASEAN members to cooperate more intensively on the production and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, supporting the work of the World Health Organization, and has given its condolences for all families who have lost someone due to the pandemic. ASEP 11 delegates have also shown commitment to strengthen the cooperation between the private sectors, especially on behalf of foreign investments on micro, small, and medium enterprises in global production networks and supply chains. They believe that micro, small, and medium enterprises have an important role in the context of post-pandemic socio-economic recovery. Educational and academic exchanges were also discussed during the meeting, with Asia-Europe members committed to further support the creation of a cultural corridor between the regions, encouraging the nations to create inter-regional virtual museums. The tourism sector was also acknowledged as a vital role for the livelihood of all citizens in Asia-Europe nations, with ASEP 11 called ASEAN partners to their utmost efforts to stabilize an international tourism. At last, climate issues were also addressed, with ASEP 11 reaffirming its commitment to fully implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Cambodia will also host the Asia-Europe meeting, or ASEM 13, on 25 to 26 November. Yuri Matosco, EAC News.
The water festival in Cambodia is just on time, as the country fully reopens, especially for the tourism sector. However, the government is still concerned in allowing celebrations to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Although cancelled, people could still have their own celebration of the Khmer Water Festival. But what does the water festival mean for Cambodians and foreign nationals living in the kingdom? EAC news reporter Ria Soka tells the story.
Bon Tuk in Khmer language. It means Boat Racing Festival, a 3-day Cambodian holiday celebrated in late October or early November, marking the end of the country's rainy season, as well as the change in flow of the sacred river, Tonle Sap River, back from the Great Lake to the Mekong River at Phnom Penh. Royal boat races occur on the first day. Following the colorful boat racing, large lanterns are released as part of the Bunday Bratib ceremony at 6 o'clock in the evening. It represents prayer for peace from Praia May Kongkea, or the goddess of Ganga. The goddess is viewed as the mother of seas, rivers, streams, creeks, and lakes. Cambodians believe that Praia May Kongkea protects and provides the water for human and animal husbandry and the flow of the sediments and fish. The second day of the festival is called O Ambok. It says about the worship of the moon. It takes place at 12 minutes past midnight and invokes a lantern lighting ceremony with prayers to Preya Portrisat, who invented the legend of a moon rabbit. In the tradition, during the O Ambok ceremony, a group play a game where members must make each other laugh. Whoever lasts the longest wins and decides who the loser is. The loser must then eat ambok with bananas until the end of the day. On the last day, a ribbon is cut, signifying the end of the boat race and the Water and Moon Festival. But with the COVID-19 situation in the country, the royal government has decided to cancel the spectacular celebrations of the Cambodian Water Festival. However, people can still enjoy the 3 days holiday away from work while spending time with their families. Just a reminder from the Ministry of Health and the royal government: never forget the preventative measures and safety precautions against the COVID-19 infection. Reyes Soko, EAC News.
The Royal Government Attorney Group has released a statement on Wednesday stressing that Cambodia has no political prisoners, only politicians convicted of committing criminal offences. The group's statement says persons who commit illegal acts shall be convicted and punished according to the provisions of law. The group's statement states that when a person has perpetrated an act which is defined as a criminal offence, Cambodian criminal law provides for penalties in the forms of imprisonment and fines, in particular which result in criminal action, and imposes civil remedies originated from the victim's civil action serving the purpose of seeking compensation for injuries to a victim of a criminal offence. It stresses that individuals named Sam Rainsy and Tulong Sumara had committed acts which are stipulated as criminal offences under Cambodian law. It also says that the judicial seizure and compulsory sale of assets of a convict is a usual procedure enforced against every person who owes an obligation of providing civil remedies, not just against Sam Rainsy and Tulong Sumara. On Monday, Phnom Penh Municipal Court has released the decision to forcibly sell the house of the former CNRP member, Sam Rainsy, in Pretek Kong Village, Minche District, Phnom Penh. The money earned from selling Rainsy's house will be used as a compensation to the National Assembly President, Heng Sem-rin, Prime Minister Hun Sen, Minister of Interior, Sa King, and the royal government, all worth around $2 million. Chinese President Xi Jinping had a virtual meeting with US President Joe Biden on Tuesday. The two sides conducted thorough and in-depth talks, exchanging views on issues of strategic and fundamental importance, shaping the development of China-US relations, and on important issues of mutual interest.
At the virtual meeting of the two leaders on Tuesday, China's Xi Jinping has pointed out that both China and the US are at a critical stage of development and that the global village of humanity faces multiple challenges. Xi also stressed that a sound and stable China-US relationship is required for advancing the two countries' respective development and for safeguarding a peaceful and stable international environment, including finding effective responses to global challenges such as climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic. The Chinese leader also expressed his readiness to work with President Biden to build consensus and take active steps to move China-US relations forward in a positive direction. He also said that the most important event in international relations over the past 50 years was the resumption and development of China-US relations, which has benefited the two countries and the whole world. And the most important event in international relations in the coming 50 years will be for China and the US to find the right way to get along. Speaking on the same occasion, President Biden stated that the US-China relationship is the most important bilateral relation in the world. He has added that the two sides need to have open and candid dialogues to enhance understanding of each other's intentions and to make sure that competition between the two countries is fair and healthy and does not veer into conflict. The US president echoed Xi's comment that history is a fair judge and that they should make the relationship work and not mess it up. President Biden reiterated that the U.S. does not seek to change China's system, the revitalization of its alliance is not anti-China, and the U.S. has no intention to have a conflict with China. He reaffirmed the U.S. government's long-standing One China policy, stated that the U.S. does not support Taiwan independence, and expressed the hope for peace and stability to be maintained in the Taiwan Strait. The two sides agreed to maintain close communication in different forms and steer China-US relations back on the right track of sound and steady development in the interest of the people in both countries and around the world. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
Now for a look at news making international headlines this Wednesday, 17th of November.
Polish security forces turned water cannon on migrants who throw rocks across the Belarusian border. Thousands have gathered in a chaotic attempt to reach the European Union, which a footage clearly shows. In the video, a migrant is seen falling on the ground after being hit by a stream of water. Poland and other European countries have accused Belarus of encouraging the migrants to attempt to cross illegally into the European on its territory in revenge to Western sanctions imposed on Minsk for human rights abuses. While Belarus blames the West for the humanitarian disaster that is building on its border with Poland, an estimated 4,000 migrants are at the border, and many say Belarusian authorities are not allowing them to return to Minsk. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says that he was deeply concerned about how Belarus was putting the lives of vulnerable migrants at risk. Belarus, close Russian ally, said assertion it had fueled the border crisis were absurd. Lukashenko had a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday to discuss the crisis.
Two separate blasts rocked the streets of Uganda's capital Kampala on Tuesday morning. Uganda police spokesperson Fred Enanga has confirmed that 6 people are dead. 3 of them were the suicide bombers. The total so far of the injured persons the authorities have rushed to the Mulago National Referral Hospital has reached to 33. 5 of them are in critical condition. The strong blasts in Kampala have shocked a nation that is known as bulwark against violent Islamistic militants in East Africa, and whose leader has spent years cultivating Western security support. 2 police officers were among the victims. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Police intelligence indicated the Islamic State-aligned allied democratic forces were responsible. The explosions, the first near the central police station and the second very close to the parliament, sent blooded office workers rushing for cover over shards of broken glass as a plume of white smoke rose above the downtown area. The first blast near the checkpoint at the police station, which killed 2 people, was carried out by a suicide bomber wearing a backpack. The second attack, involving 2 suicide bombers on motorbikes, killed 1 person. The Al-Qaeda-linked Somali insurgent group Al-Shabaab has carried out deadly attacks in Uganda in the past, including a 2010 attack that killed 70 people. Ugandan soldiers are fighting Al-Shabaab in Somalia as part of a UN-backed African Union peacekeeping force. An Al-Shabaab spokesman was not immediately available for comment.
And the Russian Federation recklessly conducted a destructive satellite test against one of its own targets and put arrest to astronauts on the International Space Station and other activities in outer space, the U.S. State Department has announced on Monday. The test has so far generated over 1,500 pieces of trackable orbital debris, hundreds of thousands of pieces of smaller orbital debris that now threaten the interests of all nations. Experts say weapons that shatter satellites pose a space hazard by creating clouds of fragments that can collide with other objects, setting off a chain reaction of projectiles through the Earth's orbit. Russia's dangerous and irresponsible behavior jeopardizes the long-term sustainability of outer space and clearly demonstrates that Russia's claim of opposing the weaponization of space are disingenuous and hypocritical. The United States will work with its partners to respond to Russia's irresponsible act.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, please, please wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Phnom Penh Crown had a difficult match against Visakha last Saturday at the Prince Stadium, in what was being called the most emotional game of the season. The final result stood at 1-1, and that left the title open, although Phnom Penh Crown has a slight advantage over second-placed Visakha. EAC News reporter Yuri Matusko has the latest.
It was a thrilling match at the Prince Stadium last Saturday, with the players of Visakha and Phnom Penh Crown giving all they could at the pitch, even under a heavy rain and on top of a muddy field. Right after the referee whistled the match at the minute 5, Visakha's Korean player Lee Jung-gun has sent the ball into the Phnom Penh Crown goal. The Phnom Penh Crown team fought for a change to score a goal, with Brazilian midfielder Matheus Souza attempting an electrifying pass near Visakha's net, but the ball ended up hitting the crossbar. At minute 24, Colombian midfielder Andreas Nieto scored a goal for Phnom Penh Crown at a penalty, which led both teams with a draw until the end of the match. Both teams fought for a change in the score and get one extra goal for their teams, with Visakha's team in need for points more than its adversary, that still keeps its top position at the MCL, 2 points ahead of second-place Visakha. The hard game stopped when Visakha's player Rang Bunhen broke his leg. The ambulance was called to take the player for treatment, and 10 minutes were given as an extension. Phnom Penh Crown number 33, Matheus Souza, attempted once again a fast ball into Visakha's goal after break time, but the ball lost its potency due to the muddy ground. He spoke with EAC News saying it was a classic game, but the heavy rain made the field worn out, turning the game even harder than expected.
We tried to get an opportunity for another goal, but unfortunately we didn't get it. In a way, the draw is a good result for us. It gives us the opportunity to play in our house with our fans. I believe in our team, in our potential, and I think we can get the victory in our house with the people cheering for us, who is always cheering for us independently of the result of the match. I believe we will be champions of the MCL.
Phnom Penh's Crown head coach Oleg Starinsky says the tension made the game violent and challenging.
It was a tough game. So unfortunately, football finish after the rain, and was difficult already to combine due to the pitch condition. It was become very, very physical and consist only of the challenges. We are not happy with the end result, but we're not frustrated. We're waiting for the next match where we confirm our victory. So we will put the maximum efforts to get the 3 points on a Friday game.
Phnom Penh Crown will have the oldest classic match against Bunket Football Club in the RSN Stadium on Friday 19 at 3:30 p.m. Yuri Matosco, EAC News.
Fans filed out of Dubai International Stadium after Australia clinched their maiden 2020 World Cup title on Sunday with an 8-wicket victory over New Zealand. Having restricted New Zealand to 172 for 4, Australia reached their target with 7 balls to spare after a brilliant batting display. Opening batter David Warner scored 53 off 38 balls, while Mitchell Marsh remained unbeaten on 77 from 50 deliveries, to see Australia through and spark wild celebration amongst his teammates. New Zealand captain Kane Williamson earlier led by example with a whirlwind 85 off 48 balls to power his team to 172 for 4 at the Dubai International Stadium. Put into bat, New Zealand struggled to get going and were 57-1 at the halfway stage of their innings before Williamson accelerated the scoring.
Yeah, it's awesome. We just won the World Cup, the T20, first time ever. It's an amazing achievement, and who better to win against than our neighbours? So.
It was a good game. We put on a pretty good score, but we needed 180, 190. So what do? Australia batted very, very well. So they won it. Congratulations, Australia.
The right-hander dropped on 21 near the boundary by Josh Hazlewood. Hit 3 sixes and 10 fours in his knock. Fast bowler Hazlewood was the most successful with the ball for Australia and picked up 3 for 16 in his 4 overs. Argentina's captain Lionel Messi is fit again and will start the World Cup qualifier at home in Brazil on Tuesday. But Neymar will miss out for the visitors Brazil after an injury to his thigh, as previously announced by his team.
Argentina coach Lionel Scaloni made similar comments ahead of their last game, a 1-0 win over Uruguay on Friday, although Messi only appeared for the final 14 minutes of the match. Argentina is second in South America's 10-team qualifying group, 6 points behind Brazil, who are the only team from the region to have secured their place at the Qatar 2022 so far. Scaloni repeated that Messi, 34, had recovered fully from the knee and hamstring worries that kept him out of Paris Saint-Germain's last 2 games and was ready for one of the biggest matches in the South American calendar. Brazil will be without Neymar after their top scorer reported feeling pains in the adductor region of his left thigh. Brazil's team said in a statement that Neymar Jr. felt insecure about the situation, and as there's not enough time to carry out complementary exams, the technical commission decided to rest the player who will not travel with the team to San Juan, located off Tuesday game against Argentina. The top 4 teams in South American qualifying progress automatically to the next year's World Cup finals, and the 5th place side goes into an inter-regional playoff. Argentina, unbeaten in 26 games, a run that includes a 1-0 win over Brazil in the Copa America final in Rio de Janeiro in July.
Novak Djokovic has made history once again. The Serbian tennis player secured the year-end #1 spot in the ATP rankings for the 7th time on Monday, after starting his ATP Finals campaign in Turin with a win. The world #1 bettered the mark set by 14 times Grand Slam champion Pete Sampras, who ended the year on top of the rankings from 1993 to 1998. He says he's extremely happy, and it is one of his biggest goals to try and be #1 and to end the season in top place. He has claimed that he's very grateful to be in the position and being able to surpass his childhood idol, Pete, who is also his role model. Earlier, the Serbian began his quest for a 6th title at the season, ending ATP Finals with a 7-6, 6-2 victory over Norway's Casper Ruud. 7 times world champion Lewis Hamilton hunted down Max Verstappen to win the São Paulo Grand Prix for Mercedes on Sunday. and to slash his Red Bull rival's Formula One lead to 14 points, with 3 races remaining.
Verstappen finished second with Valtteri Bottas third for Mercedes on an astonishing, controversial and roller coaster weekend in Brazil that will go down as one of Hamilton's greatest and most satisfying drives.
Yeah, I mean, we tried everything we could today, of course. I think it was a good battle, but of course at the end we just missed a little bit of pace, but we gave it all today, and it was a lot of fun.
The pace was actually quite okay. I thought we could have done one stop quite easily, but we decided to stop. But yeah, I'm glad we could get more points than Red Bull.
The Briton was fastest in Friday, qualifying in Interlagos for Saturday's sprint that set Sunday's grid, and then demoted to the back of the field after his car's rear wing failed a technical inspection. He went from 20th to 5th on Saturday, dropping back to 10th on Sunday's grid after an engine penalty, but hungry for much more. The rest was history as the 36-year-old took his third win in Brazil and set a record for victory in Brazil from the lowest grid position, beating Italian Giancarlo Fisichella 2003 win from 8th.
But from last on the grid and then another 5-place penalty was, I think, the hardest weekend I've had. But my dad said he reminded me of 2004 when I was in Formula 3 in Bahrain, and I started last, and I finished 10th, and then I finished first. So yeah, this one's for my dad.
The win was Hamilton's 6th of the season and record extending 101st of his career. Red Bull's Sergio Perez finished 4th, putting on the penalty lap for fresh tires to set the fastest lap and deny Hamilton a bonus point.
Argentina and Brazil drew in a tense end-to-end match, ending 0-0 on Tuesday. Both teams retained their unbeaten record in the South American World Cup qualifiers. Brazil is the only side in the 10-team South American section to guarantee their place in next year's finals. Argentina are sitting in second place, 6 points behind, and they look certain to join them. The top 4 teams qualify automatically for Qatar, and the 5th place sides go into an interregional playoff. Neither side was able to impose themselves in an entertaining match. When Fred's second half shot for Brazil clipped the top of the bar, that was the closest either team came to breaking the deadlock. However, Brazil's coach Tite was critical of an alleged elbow during the match. The goalless draw in San Juan means Argentina is now 27 matches unbeaten, a run stretching back more than 2 years. The last time these two teams met in action, it only lasted 5 minutes, as officials evaded the pitch, accusing the Argentinian players of not following the proper COVID-19 quarantine rules.
Who was responsible for the video assistant referee? Is it impossible, I repeat, impossible to not see Argentina's Nicolas Otamendi's elbow on Rafinha? I am not talking about the results of the match. Is it very clear who wants an exemption of the analysis? Would that determine the results of the match? I don't know. Was it a great game between the two sides? It was a great game, with tradition and technical quality. The technical level of the two teams, the marking and positioning, the strengths of the two teams and individual duels, the alternating of moments of control and dominance made it a World Cup match.
The last time these two teams met in action, it only lasted 5 minutes, as officials evaded the pitch, accusing the Argentinian players of not following the proper COVID-19 quarantine rules. Argentina and Brazil drew in a tense end-to-end match, ending 0-0 on Tuesday. Both teams retained their unbeaten record in the South American World Cup qualifiers. Brazil is the only side in the 10-team South American section to guarantee their place in next year's finals. Argentina are sitting in second place, 6 points behind, and they look certain to join them. The top 4 teams qualify automatically for Qatar, and the 5th place sides go into an interregional playoff. Neither side was able to impose themselves in an entertaining match. When Fred's second half shot for Brazil clipped the top of the bar, that was the closest either team came to breaking the deadlock. However, Brazil's coach Tite was critical of an alleged elbow during the match. The goalless draw in San Juan means Argentina is now 27 matches unbeaten, a run stretching back more than 2 years. The last time these two teams met in action, it only lasted 5 minutes, as officials evaded the pitch, accusing the Argentinian players of not following the proper COVID-19 quarantine rules.
Who was responsible for the video assistant referee? Is it impossible, I repeat, impossible to not see Argentina's Nicolas Otamendi's elbow on Rafinha? I am not talking about the results of the match. Is it very clear who wants an exemption of the analysis? Would that determine the results of the match? I don't know. Was it a great game between the two sides? It was a great game, with tradition and technical quality. The technical level of the two teams, the marking and positioning, the strengths of the two teams and individual duels, the alternating of moments of control and dominance made it a World Cup match.
The last time these two teams met in action, it only lasted 5 minutes, as officials evaded the pitch, accusing the Argentinian players of not following the proper COVID-19 quarantine rules. From a back-flipping gymnast, ball control tricks, and even a man pulling a car whilst walking on his hands. This year's Guinness World Record Day is as colourful as ever. Talent from around the world has smashed all kinds of records for the 18th annual GWR Day on Wednesday.
The British gymnast broke his own record for the farthest backflip between two horizontal bars when he managed to propel himself 6 meters through the air.
If you want to be a Guinness World Records title holder, just go for it. Do it. Find whatever you're really good at, see what the record is, train for it as hard as you can, and do it. Honestly, you won't regret it.
Meanwhile, in China, balanced on his hands, Zhang Xuan pulled a car for 50 meters in just 1 minute and 13.27 seconds, the fastest time to date.
The skill is in having a very strong waist and abdomen and good endurance in your triceps, arms, and shoulders.
Other winners include American Tyler Tyso Fly Phillips. The 21-year-old broke the record for the most consecutive cars jumped over a pogo stick after he bounced over 5 stationary black cabs in London. Takahiro Ikeda from Japan walked away with 3 records this year, including one for being super quick at the BMX time machines after he knocked out 45 of the bike spins in 30 seconds. 32-year-old Lara Biondo from Venezuela bagged a couple of certificates for her ball control skills, including the most double around-the-world ball control tricks in 1 minute achieved by a female.
What I love about record breaking is that it's a way to inspire, especially the new generations, but mainly for me the most important thing is to inspire girls to follow their dreams and to know that if you set yourself a goal, you can definitely achieve it if you put hard work into it.
Other winners include Ayobi Touabe from Morocco, who impressed with his one-legged backward somersault doing 12 in 30 seconds. Editor-in-chief of the Guinness World Records book, Craig Glynday, says that they've been blown away by the incredible talent and show of strength from all new record holders.
Let's have a look at the weather and see what you can expect over the next few days. Israel startup Redefine Meat will begin offering 3D printed plant-based meat products at selected high-end restaurants in Europe. The company has made the announcement on Tuesday, also unveiling what it called the world's first whole cuts that resemble lamb and beef cuts.
Israeli startup firm Redefine Meat on Tuesday has expanded operations into Europe, where it hopes to reach thousands of restaurants by the end of next year. It has served for the first time its plant-based whole cuts of alternative meat. The 3D printed beef substitute was rolled out in Israel, as well as Germany, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom. A mix of soy and pea protein, chickpeas, beetroot, nutritional yeasts, and coconut fat, it mimics flank steak, which is also known as bavette. The company has claimed to have cracked the holy grail of the alternative meat industry, which is largely producing minced products that often lack the fibrous texture found in animal meat. Redefine Meat's range of products, called New Meat, now includes the whole cuts, plus burgers, sausages, lamb kebabs, and ground beef, as it hopes to become the world's largest meat company by offering every single cut that a cow does. The company works with about 150 restaurants in Israel, working on a launch in the US and Asia. As technology advances and improves the taste and variety of alternative meats, sales in the sector could reach $140 billion by 2029, about 10% of the world meat market. Redefine Meat uses 3D printers and ink to print the steaks. The firm aims to sell the printers and the cartridges to meat distributors worldwide, who will both print and distribute the meat once produced. The ink is made of plant-based ingredients similar to what a cow eats. It contains proteins from legumes and grains to create the muscle texture of the alternative meat. It also contains fats from the plants to mimic the beef fat, and natural flavors and colors to mimic the blood factor in meat and its juiciness.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roundup here on the EAC News Channel. More from the EAC News team in the Daily Roundup, Monday night, 8 p.m. I'll see you then.